The Japanese Type 95 Hago tank was born out of confidence. Confidence shaped by years of battlefield success and reinforced by the belief the Japanese armored doctrine was not only correct but superior. From its introduction in the mid-1930s through the early years of the Pacific War, the Hago seemed to justify this belief. It had proven itself against Chinese forces during the war in China, against Soviet armor during the fighting at Khalkhin Gol, and in the rapid conquests across Malaysia and the Philippines. Japanese tank crews came to regard their light tanks as agile, reliable, and perfectly suited to the environments in which Japan fought. For those who drove them, commanded them, and maintained them, the Hago was more than a piece of machinery. It was a symbol of Japanese adaptability and technical ingenuity. Yet this confidence would eventually meet a reality for which Japan was unprepared. The Hago was not an accidental achievement. It was the product of military planning that began in 1933, when the Imperial Japanese Army recognized that its existing armored forces were insufficient for modern warfare. The Type 89 medium tank, which formed the backbone of Japan's armored units, was slow, heavy, and unsuited to rapid mechanized operations. Military strategists envisioned a more mobile army, an army capable of moving alongside motorized infantry and exploiting breakthroughs rather than simply supporting foot soldiers. The Army Technical Bureau issued new specifications. The tank would weigh roughly 7 tons, mount a 37mm cannon, achieve speeds near 40 kilometers per hour, and possess enough armor to resist rifle and machine gun fire. Just as important, it needed to be simple to build and maintain, something Japan's industrial base could produce in large numbers. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries received the development contract, and engineer Tomio Hara led the design effort. His most significant contribution was the bell crank suspension system, a mechanically simple but effective design that provided good cross-country mobility. The first prototype, completed in 1934, impressed military observers. The tank could reach 45 kilometers per hour on paved roads and maintained respectable speeds over rough ground. Its diesel engine, producing 120 horsepower, was a source of pride for Japanese engineers. Not only was it reliable, but diesel fuel was less flammable and more readily available across Japan's empire. Trials revealed a rough ride, especially over uneven terrain, but modifications improved stability. By 1935, after debate between infantry and cavalry branches, the Type 95 Hago was officially adopted. Though small by Western standards, 4.38 meters long and weighing just over 7 tons, the Hago met its intended design goals. Its armor was thin, only 12 millimeters at its thickest, and as little as 6 millimeters in less critical areas. But Japanese planners had designed against the enemies they expected to fight, Chinese forces with limited anti-tank capability. Inside, the tank was cramped. The 3-man crew worked in close quarters, with the commander in the turret forced to perform the roles of commander, gunner, and loader simultaneously, all while standing in a gun platform without a turret basket. These drawbacks were manageable in the type of warfare Japan faced in China. Against poorly equipped Chinese forces, the Hago excelled. Its mobility allowed it to maneuver through terrain thought impassable to armor. Its cannon and machine guns devastated infantry and poorly fortified positions. These early successes shaped the attitude of Japan's tank corps. Crews came to believe that their light tanks provided all the firepower and protection necessary for modern combat. The chasm between perceived performance and actual capability widened further in Malaya and the Philippines, where the Hago's mobility again proved decisive. British and American forces in those campaigns possessed limited armor, allowing the Japanese to repeat the successes of China.
Yet warning signs had already appeared during the 1939 battles at Khalkhin Gol against the Soviet Union. There, Japanese Hago tanks encountered Soviet BT-5 and BT-7 models, faster, better armored, and armed with 45mm guns capable of penetrating Japanese tanks at combat ranges. Japanese tanks could, and did, destroy Soviet armor when employing aggressive maneuver and surprise, but the Soviets demonstrated that in a direct contest of firepower and protection, the Hago was outmatched. The lesson was clear. The Hago could not survive against modern peer armor. However, rather than redesigning Japanese armor doctrine, Army leadership focused on improving crew training and tactics. Subsequent campaigns against weaker opponents further convinced Japanese commanders that their tanks were adequate. This misplaced confidence carried into the defense of Saipan in June 1944. The island was strategically critical. From Saipan, American B-29 bombers could reach the Japanese home islands. Japan committed its largest tank force yet assembled in the Pacific, the 9th Tank Regiment under Colonel Takashi Goto, comprising 44 tanks, mostly Type 95 Hagos and some Type 97 Chi-Ha medium tanks. Though the Chi-Ha mounted a larger 57mm gun, both types suffered from the same thin armor characteristic of Japanese design. On June 15th, U.S. Marines landed on Saipan's western beaches. Despite fierce Japanese resistance, the Americans secured a beachhead. Recognizing the danger, General Yoshitsugu Saito ordered a massive counterattack before the Americans could fully consolidate. The attack, planned for the pre-dawn hours of June 17th, would combine infantry and armor in a coordinated assault against the Marine perimeter.
In the dark, early hours, Japanese tanks rumbled forward. Crews, many veterans of earlier campaigns, believed their vehicles capable of driving the Americans into the sea. But the Americans heard them coming. Marine positions braced for impact. Machine gun teams prepared their Browning M2.50 caliber heavy machine guns, weapons originally designed to destroy aircraft and lightly armored vehicles, not tanks. Yet the physics of armor penetration left no room for illusion. The .50 caliber armor-piercing round could penetrate up to 23mm of hardened steel at 200 meters. The Hago's armor was at most 12mm thick. When the Hago tanks advanced to within firing range, Marines opened up. The effect was immediate and devastating. The heavy machine gun rounds did not ricochet. They punched directly through the tank armor. Some rounds entered one side of the tank and exited the other. Inside the cramped crew compartment, there was no space to avoid the incoming fire. Engines were torn open. Ammunition ignited. Commanders were struck down through their own turret armor. One Marine gunner described watching tracer rounds spark inside a Hago's hull as they penetrated the front plates. The tank slowed, stopped, and its crew attempted to escape, only to be cut down under small arms fire. In minutes, confidence turned to catastrophe. Japanese crews who survived realized the bitter truth. The armor they had trusted was no protection at all. The Hago was not invincible. It was not even capable of resisting the heavy machine gun fire of a well-prepared enemy. The battle on Saipan was not merely a tactical defeat. It was a revelation.